How do you know how much to ask for in child support or alimony in family court? Hi, I'm Zachary C. Ashby at Pacific Northwest Family Law. I want to give you a few ways that you can calculate a principled request. At our firm, we have a saying, pigs get fed, but hogs get slaughtered. And what that means is you should ask for everything that you deserve because then you get it, but you shouldn't ask for too much because if you ask for too much, you're not going to get what you deserve. Ask based on principle for child support and alimony. With child support, the basic calculation is your percentage of combined net income. What that means is there is a schedule that the legislature has created and you follow it. For example, if you have a combined net income of $3,000 a month, you follow it down, and with 2 kids, it's a certain amount that you pay. You then pay a percentage of that depending on what your share of net income is. Where you really get in the nitty gritty on child support is how do you calculate your net income? It's all income from all sources for both parties. That's your basic thing, and that's your gross. Net income or any of the allowed deductions from that, such as taxes, Social Security, mandatory retirement, some voluntary retirement. Those are some of the basics. If you own a business, not only will you report your business income, but you'll report any allowed business expenses as well to get down to what your net income is. And this is different than your income for federal tax. It's not your taxable income. It is all sources of income, whether it's taxable or not. That's a basic calculation. For alimony, also known as spousal maintenance in Washington, there's several factors that go into it, but it boils down to need versus ability to pay. Problem is with that, there's not a set calculation. And the problem with this formula is that you can have deductions from it based on need and ability to pay, or other circumstances that allow you to deviate from the standard calculation. So you have to understand what those circumstances are and how to ask for that. Now, when you're calculating this, one of the biggest tools that we use is a budget. The easiest way to do a budget is look at the last 3 months of income. As long as you haven't received any big bonuses or you were working odd hours, like overtime or fewer hours than you're used to, so that your income is more or less the same how it usually is. Look at the last 3 months of income, add that up, and then average that out over 3 months. That's your gross. Then look at all your expenses over those 3 months. Sources to do this is your bank account and your credit cards. Categorize these into 2 different categories. One are necessary expenses, what you need to live. So this might be things like housing, car, food, utilities, maybe phone. These are the things that are necessary. If you don't pay these, you don't have food, shelter, or a way to communicate with anyone, and you're in real trouble. So that's the first category. The second category are discretionary things. If you didn't pay them, you would survive, maybe not thrive. Some of these are thrive. You can further categorize them into thriving and fun, but these are going to be expenses such as eating out, streaming services, entertainment, vacation, travel. Those are some of the things that would be here. That'll give you a basic budget, and that'll show you what your income versus your outflow is. And it'll also let you know where the wiggle room is. Now, when it comes to going off the standard calculation for this and winning in need or ability to pay for spousal is a few categories. One is going to be medical. If you have or need prescriptions that are expensive, therapies, any kind of treatments that you need for medical, that's one big area. Another area might be extraordinary debts. These could be child support for other children outside of the relationship that you're dealing with. It could be just debts from maybe medical debts that you weren't expecting, or illness, or maybe you're paying a lot for your mortgage and it worked with 2 incomes, but it's not going to work now. Those type of things are going to allow you to change the calculation. On the other side, places to look for are going to be voluntary retirement contributions. Oftentimes the courts will look at that and say that's more or less 100% discretionary. The court will also look at things like if you have a large inheritance or savings that's sitting in a bank account or other assets that you can draw on. The court will look at that and will use that, especially in calculating spousal maintenance. We'll also use it to deviate up or down in child support. So those are some areas. Now, as far as hard numbers, can't do that for every situation. But when it's looking at child support, it's going to be looking at the standard calculation, your percentage according to that schedule of combined net income and what you should either pay or receive. But when it comes to spousal maintenance and alimony, the court is looking for a few other factors: your age, your ability to earn, and the length of the marriage. On a temporary basis, the court's going to look to equalize the income in both households as long as there is ability to pay from the other spouse to equalize the income. Now, some things are going to affect that. If you're now living in two houses where you're living in one before and expenses have gone up, you need to make sure the court knows about that so that it can make a fair ruling. Also, length of the marriage for short-term marriages, anything under 10 years is usually short-term. You're not going to get a lot of years. Depending on circumstances, everyone's healthy, able to earn, retirement's not knocking on the door. You're looking at maybe 1 year of spousal for every 3 to 5 years of marriage. But that's just a rule of thumb. It's not a hard calculation, and your circumstances might be different. On a temporary basis, that doesn't matter, but that is going to be your long-term outlook. So there's not a hard calculation, and each calculation is going to be different. But that basic budget, or the one that's looking back, really it's your income versus your expense spreadsheet. That's what's going to help you calculate what would be reasonable for spousal maintenance, and then figuring out, I need 2,000, I can earn 1,500, but my spouse earns 3,000. Well, if we take 500 from him and give to me, or 750, that equalizes the income. We're both able to meet all our expenses, and we can get going with everything else. That would be a reasonable ask. But what would be unreasonable is during the marriage, our household income was 6,000. He earned 4,000 of it. I earned 2. He's moved out. He now needs to give me 4,000, leaving him with nothing. That would be an unreasonable request. Now, as part of the calculation, child support is in there. Often the courts will award child support, deny a deviation rather than delve into spousal maintenance. So there is some balancing that happens with those numbers, and the spousal back and forth will affect child support numbers too. It's circular, if they're circular. If you have any questions, like some clarification, I can do further videos. Please comment below or send an email to info@pnwfamilylaw.com, or you can call 509-866-4111. Thank you.